Well, I know someone who would like to change that stat and make it 2 7 seeds into the Final Four, and that is the head coach of the San Diego State Aztecs. He joins us right now on our Aztecs Power Hour, Steve Fisher. Coach, congratulations on getting into the NCAA tournament. That's an accomplishment that should not be overlooked. I know we're starting to get a little spoiled here, but I wanted to make sure that is pointed out, that just making the tournament is an accomplishment in and of itself.
I thank you, Ben, for saying that, and I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Chris and I have talked about that often, and I think we can't forget it truly is a lot of work and a special privilege to be included in that field, and there are a lot of terrific teams every year that are not, and this is our 4th year in a row. We're very proud of that fact.
Yeah, congratulations, Coach, once again. Give us your first thoughts when you saw your name pop up on the board there on Sunday. I know that feeling never gets old.
It certainly doesn't. We gathered our team, and we were in the Fowler Center and in the auditorium, and it was pretty much just our team. And it was, you tingle with excitement when you go in and they start the program, and if you feel like you're on the bubble, then you have great concern and worry. We knew we were going to get in, so it was just an anticipation and excitement. And when our name came up, the room exploded with cheers and excitement and high fives and that sort of thing. So, and you're right, it never gets old.
Now, before the Aztecs name came up, we saw Colorado State's name come up as an 8 seed. At that point, what were you thinking, Coach? Did you think, well, we might be a 9 or a 10 or even an 11 at this point because Colorado State finished ahead of us in the league? Or did you kind of consider the possibility of the committee doing what they did and giving your team credit for some of those non-conference wins like UCLA and Indiana State?
I still felt as if we would be somewhere in that ballpark of a 7, 8, 9, and most people, and I didn't pay as much attention as others. Most people were thinking that we would be an 8 or a 9. But to be honest with you, there's not much separation between 7, 8, 9, really, and 10 when you start looking at it. 8, 9 plays a 1, but the 2s are also interchangeable with the 1s in many cases, and for sure in our case.
All right, so let's talk about the matchup. You saw you're playing Oklahoma, and I imagine one of the first things that came to your mind was your friend Lon Kruger, and I know that you guys aren't just acquaintances. I mean, you guys get together, you spend time together, your families get together, so you root for Lon Kruger normally, and you know him very well. Was that the first thing that kind of went through your head? Hey, I got to go against Lon?
That was in there in the top 2 or 3 thoughts that I had. Lon and I, as you say, Chris, have been friends, true friends, underlined, for a long time. His wife, Barb, and my wife, Angie, are friends. And when we go on some of these trips, we find ways to sit and have dinner together and talk about our families. So it's more than just a coaching relationship where you have a lot of those. But Lon is a good friend and well-documented. He texts me when we beat UCLA. I did the same to him when he beat Kansas. But that's not the only time we communicate with one another. So you'd rather not play someone who you have great respect for and you are friends with, but we're both happy to be in the tournament.
So what have you learned about his team in the last couple of days, looking at film and going back through their stats and the course of their season?
Typical Lon Kruger team. He's the first guy in the history of this game to take 5 different teams to the NCAA tournament. He's an exceptional coach. He's a good teacher. They are driven by their defense. They're very athletic. But now they're scoring a lot of points, too. So they're like us. They finished, I believe, tied for 4th or 4th in the Big 12. But they're a really good team. They beat the best team in the Big 12, Kansas. And they've got arguably the best player in the league in Osby. So they'll be a handful, but hopefully we'll be a handful for them.
You know, everybody talks about matchups this time of year. Coach Steve Fisher is with us. Do you like the matchup against Oklahoma? Is this a team that you feel like you guys match up well with?
I would say if I could hand pick, they would not be my first selection as to who I would play. But I think in today's world, every team that gets in is good. So matchups are, you're playing a good team. Doesn't matter whether you're the 7th seed or the 5th seed or whatever you are. You're playing a really good team in the first game. They don't have the skyscraper 7-footers, but they have, as I said before, Romero Osby is a big-time player. He's an NBA player for sure, and he's a handful. Then they've got, and our fans, our real fans will remember the name Mbe, who played at Wyoming 2 years ago.
Yes.
And when they had a coaching change, he left. It happened that Lon was just leaving. So he transferred, and he's a 6'9", real athletic. He's their second big, formerly from Wyoming. This is his first year with them. He's a redshirt junior. So they've got good size, but they don't have insurmountable size.
Coach, I know we're talking to Coach Steve Fisher here on our Aztecs Power Hour. I know you appreciate the committee trying to pad your frequent flyer miles, now 3 of the last 4 years. You get some upgrades, I'm sure, in your travel in the off-season. But, the disadvantage of traveling, is it offset at all by knowing you get one of the last games on Friday, so some extra time to both travel and prepare for this game?
In a perfect world, we would do what we did 2 years ago and play close to home. We'd play in San Jose or Salt Lake City, but we're not. So I don't think you can carp on that and worry about it. You got to plan accordingly. We do travel. I'm very appreciative that we've got the Friday game as opposed to Thursday. And we'd all rather play early than late, but by playing late, it gets our clock closer to where we are. So I don't worry about that. You can't let your kids worry about it. We'll be ready. Our energy will be there. If we don't have success, it won't be because we went cross country and played at 9:30 at night.
Coach, is it fair to say, or am I overstating the fact that you guys probably aren't playing your best basketball heading into this NCAA tournament? You're playing some pretty good basketball in spurts, but really for the last month or so, you haven't really played your best. Are you concerned at all about that, or am I overstating that a little bit?
What we're not doing, Chris, is shooting the ball with consistency, and that eats you up when that happens. We've not done that all season. We've had games, even the last stretch of the season. If you remember back when we played Fresno State at home, Nevada at home, we pounded both of those teams. And we kept the pedal to the metal and beat them by huge margins. We shot the ball well. We've been inconsistent with our shooting. If we want to make a run in the tournament, our defense must continue to be sound. We can't have, we can't give an inordinate number of easy baskets, but we got to shoot the ball better. We had one game, Boise, in the tournament where we turned the ball over too much, but we've been pretty good with our turnovers. We only had 4 against New Mexico. But the big thing that's been consistently an issue has been our perimeter shooting.
And I know you've got good shooters on your team, Coach. I mean, they light it up in practice. They work as hard as anyone at it. Yet someone tweeted me yesterday that they looked at the shooting percentages of Jamal that have gone down the last 3 years. Chase has gone down. Xavier went down from last year to this year. And James Rahan has gone down in each of the last 3 years. Do you have any explanation as to why they're not making as many shots as they have done previously in their careers?
Nothing other than I think this is this for sure the truth. Defenses everywhere have progressed. They're better. And I think when you have all the technology that's out there today, we can go on Synergy. And some of our listeners probably don't even know what that is. And we can pull up every shot a particular player has taken. And not only every shot, but how he got it. Was it 2 dribbles to the left? Was it on the right wing? And so you know tendencies now. And you play to that. And you take away strengths of your opponents. I think that's why the scores are probably down a little bit everywhere across the country, and shooting percentages are down, not just for us, but everywhere in the country. And New Mexico, for example, a terrific team. Won our league, got a 3 seed, and their field goal percentage is in the low 40s. Their offensive field goal percentage is in the low 40s. And they'll have some moments where they say, "Oh my goodness," or "Can they shoot?" But you look at the trend, I think it's a little bit everywhere. But you got to make shots if you want to win. You have to be able to make some shots, and we've got to put the ball in the basket.
Do you go into the tournament, Coach? I mean, and you've won it before, and you've been to the Final Four a few times, so you know how to handle the whole tournament as a whole. Do you look at Oklahoma? Do you have some of your coaching staff looking at some film of Georgetown and maybe even at Florida Gulf Coast, just in preparation for the second game, since there's such a short turnaround if you beat Oklahoma?
The moment we found out who we were playing, David Velasquez went upstairs, and by the time our players walked out of the building, they had a tape of the Oklahoma-Iowa State game, which was their last game in the conference tournament, the Big 12 conference tournament. Then we immediately had I think I went home with 4 games on my iPad that I was able to watch on Sunday. We made calls, we made contacts with some friends that were going to give us some things on Oklahoma, like I'm sure they're doing for us. So Sunday, Monday, and today, exclusively Oklahoma. On Wednesday, as we get on the plane to head out, one coach will start to do work on Georgetown. Another coach will start to do work on Florida Gulf Coast. And we'll do more work on Georgetown because they're the prohibitive favorite than we would on Florida Gulf Coast. But we'll have film cut and a game plan for both teams prior to our game with Oklahoma. We won't talk about it at all with our players, but we will have a feel for both of those teams, yes.
Last thing for me, Coach, we talk about this every year, but the length of the games in the NCAA tournament, the additional television timeouts, the time to rest, what impact does that have on your rotation and minutes for your players, at least the plan right now?
Well, it lends itself to some maybe long silences where nobody knows what to say because you've said everything you have to say. That's one thing. I think you'll probably, in our case, see our coaches get together and talk a little longer before we get in with the team, allow them to get a deep breath and talk amongst themselves a little bit. And I think that what it does also is it allows you to play fewer players if you choose to do that, because, as you say, you go from 1.5-minute timeouts to 2.5-minute timeouts, and it's a huge difference. You feel it. So I think you can catch your breath, and rather than sitting out a couple of minutes, you can be in the game, but at that timeout, and still not have to take guys out.
Do you have a little special feeling that maybe there's a special run in this team, Coach? I mean, you've got some great senior leadership. You've got Chase. You've got Rayhan. You've got some great athleticism. You had a great run earlier this season. Do you have a sneaking suspicion that if things kind of break right, you can make a little bit of a run here?
Chris, I always do. I'm one of those guys that, the proverbial glass is always half filled. I always feel that way. And I'm not whistling in the wind when I say that. Your point's well taken. This is our 4th straight year. This is Chase Tapley's 4th year in the NCAA tournament. Jamal's been here 3 years now. James Rayhan, 3 years. So we are not a group that this is the first time we're going to where all the obligatory NCAA things that they have you do, the mandatory press conferences, the open shoot-around on the game floor on Thursday, all of these things will be familiar to our team. So I think from that standpoint, we'll be ready, and we've got the talent and we've got the team that's capable of winning. So now we've got to go out and perform. There will be teams that advance that people will say a week from now, can you believe they're still in? I don't know it would be so much that with us, although most people, if we get to the Sweet 16 the next round, they would say, holy mackerel, they're still playing. But it will not be a shock to any of us. So, yeah, I'm excited. I believe we've got the ability to win 2 games, and that's our focus. We're not doing anything other than say we're in a 2-game tournament in Philadelphia, and we want to win 2 games.
Well, Coach, we've got our fingers crossed. We believe in you guys. Safe travels. Good luck. And hopefully we'll be talking next week about a trip to Dallas, Arlington for the Sweet 16.
Sounds good, Ben. Chris, thank you for having me on. And I know we've got a lot of your listeners that'll be tuned in when we play, and we're all very excited. And I want every Aztec fan to feel exactly the same way we do right now.